Hi everyone, Agnes here. I am doing another 5 questions with a lovely person, and today it's Dee and she is in Istanbul. Hello Dee.
Hi, hello, how are you?
Good, lovely to see you. Thank you for coming on and doing this little discussion with me. So you are doing 5 questions, and what have you got written down to discuss today?
Right, well, thank you for having me. Okay, the first question is, how can you train yourself to be as indifferent for the bigger, or what you think are bigger desires, bigger manifestations, like you do with trivial things, like things you just thought of for like 1 or 2 seconds and then they pop up. But the things that you spend more time and energy thinking, scheming about, they tend to take longer. And how can you train yourself? Like, how can you actually consciously have the same sort of attitude towards bigger desires, or what you claim to be as bigger desires, as you do with trivial things like
I think it's because in our minds some things are smaller, some things are middle-sized, and some things are bigger. So we do have the belief bigger things are harder. We do. So I think it's identifying what negative beliefs have I got about that subject, whatever that big thing is, and then you work with flipping those beliefs. So you got to really look at, what do I think negatively about my big belief? What is it? So it's training your mind to have a different thought. I mean, you will default in the beginning to whatever negative thought you have, but it's bringing it this way, bringing it this way, bringing it this way, and changing it bit by bit by bit. So, and eventually the big desire becomes a present actuality. And then you can see that your beliefs have changed. Because people always ask me, how do you know if your beliefs have changed? Your results are different. That you can't argue with a result, you see.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really working with this, because this is where all the problems are, and this is where all the solutions and the new seeds to be planted are. So you got to get better at just planting new seeds on that subject.
Okay. We'll try. Well, recently I've been taking care of this stray dog, and he got ill. He was quite old, actually, above the age of 19, as people claim. So I took care of him for like 5 months, and then in the end he just passed away. So this led me to think that, okay, we're doing all this effort, and we're spending time, and we're investing emotionally or financially in our desires. But like in the end, like, this is probably a very philosophical existential question, but like in the end, everything is transitory, everything just passes away. And I was just curious whether or not it was I kept thinking, was it worth all that effort, all the pain that I went through emotionally and financially to keep that doggy alive? And I don't know if because they can't talk. I love animals, and I invest a lot of time taking care of them, but because they can't talk, I didn't know whether he was comfortable with what I was making him go through. So yeah, your thoughts on this subject in general.
Wow, it is a big one, because it's
sorry.
It's what we bring up, what it brings up in us. And I think you can only trust your intuition and do what you think is best in that moment with the skills and the knowledge that you have. I mean, your instinct, because you love animals, was to take care of and nurture that dog. I think if you hadn't done it, how would you have felt? It's saying, okay, let me have a look at that now that the dog's passed away. How would I have felt if I'd walked away?
Yeah,
So it's
I couldn't have walked away.
No, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you did what was right at the time because it presented itself in front of you. And, you know, maybe there would have been a lot of guilt if you had walked away rather than the pain of loss, because it is a loss. When you lose an animal, it is a deep feeling of loss. You're going through grief just like you do with a person. So, you know, I think it's just as best you can trust your intuition and your gut feeling at that moment on this particular subject, in this case, a beautiful dog that needed taking care of. And you came to give. You were in a state of giving.
Yeah, I guess so. I think giving is more rewarding than taking. I think that's what I found with me. I mean, it's more rewarding to be able to make someone happy as opposed to having the reverse, let's say.
Yeah.
So yeah, my next question is, shall I go on?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. How to well, this was related to my first question, but I was wondering if you could speak about specific techniques to overcome resistance towards your desire. If you feel like you're stuck in a mindset, how can you break away from that psychological trap, let's say, of thinking that your desire is too hard or unattainable or whatever? How can you take yourself to another mindset to overcome that resistance?
I think it's looking at, okay, here's my desire and I want it because I think I will feel X when I attain it. So every desire, you want it for a specific reason because it will make you feel more of something that you would really enjoy feeling. So you got to work out what that is: joy, happiness, secure, peace, excitement, whatever it is. You go, okay. So that's what's sitting behind the desire, is the feeling I think I'm going to get when I am able to attract this or manifest it. So if you can do one thing and say, you know what, that desire is not my roadblock to being able to feel that feeling, and you put your effort into going around the circle a different way, as in, I'm going to be able to feel this feeling irregardless of whether I get this desire now or in a week or in a month or in 6 months. Because if you can hop into the state, as Neville says, or the feeling, then you are basically bypassing and shortcutting it taking a long, long time. Because it's like, I'll be happy when, or I'll be secure when, or I'll be, excited when. But the thing is, you're the one that has the ability to influence how you feel today, irregardless of that thing, whatever it is, X, the relationship, more money, meaningful work, that your health condition disappears. So if you can remember that, you set yourself free from needing the desire to give you that feeling. So go for the feeling, then the desire comes. That's the best technique of all. because you're basically saying to source or God or universe, you know what? I'm not going to fall for the bright, shiny object syndrome. I'm not going to be, well, when I get that, then I'll be happy. Or when I get that, then I'll feel secure or contented or loved. I'm going to learn to generate that for myself. And then when that thing comes, I'm going to enjoy it because I don't need it anymore. It'll be the cherry on the cake bonus to my state that I've already learned to achieve. So it's doing it, I think, and I also think the next part of the answer would be, I think surrender and letting go and allowing is highly underused because people do all these law of attraction techniques to bring in a manifestation. That's half the nut. The other half is letting go and surrender and letting source bring it to you. We are not in charge of packaging and timing. How it gets here, when it gets here is not up to us. That's where we have humility to learn that we can't control God's delivery time. Mm-hmm. So the happier you can be about, my desire is great, but I can be totally happy with or without it. That's when you're on the brink of a manifestation because you're no longer tortured by not having it, you see.
Sort of like not being aware of not needing it, not thinking it's like a life or death situation.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Or that bright, shiny object syndrome, which I see a lot. Oh, if I can just manifest that, you know, that amazing job, or that I just need that amazing $1 million, or that perfect man or woman, then my life will be perfect. Well, then you're screwed because you have now got bright, shiny object syndrome. I need to get that and then I'll be happy. And then that comes. And then there's the next bright, shiny object syndrome. So you're constantly chasing cars and you will always go from this brief moment of, depends on how long, 1 day to 6 months, maybe a year. And then that passes. And then you need the next bright, shiny object because you are an unquenchable thirst for satisfying your desires, always, always that way. So you're going to suffer because when you're not having your desires in your hand, you're not happy, you're dissatisfied. And that is what I think handbrakes a lot of people is I need that to feel good in here. I need that to feel good in here. Once you understand that you can feel good in here, irregardless of that, or that, and you are good at maintaining it because you know meditation gets you there, you know Ho'oponopono gets you there, you know that going for a walk in nature and doing your affirmations gets you there, you know that patting your cat on a wet, rainy afternoon gets you there. You know that putting on beautiful music gets you there. You just move from one thing to the next that makes you feel good. And the whole world can't make you feel unhappy, dissatisfied anymore. And that's when you're free. That's when you feel happy. That's when you feel good. That's when you feel secure because you've worked out it's never been out there and trying to manifest stuff. Manifesting's fun. But it's not where that security and base level piece is that I need to keep manifesting. It's not there. It's a transitional state and it can be fun, but being at peace regardless of what's happening out there, that's real freedom.
Right. Thank you. So shall I move on to the next question?
Yeah.
I was wondering, why do you feel indifferent when you're moving towards your desire? Something that you wanted to have for so long suddenly appears to be reachable. And then you don't have the same excitement about that desire anymore. I've had that happen for a couple of desires that I had. I wonder why that's the case and what happens is that you end up sort of being indifferent and just not taking any action or not wanting to take any action. So I don't know whether if it's good or bad. I'm hesitant about how to think about that situation, because if you don't take action, then you're not going to be able to get the desire that you once were so excited about. You might have still some excitement about it, but it's sort of decreased in magnitude. So how do you get over that? Like, how do you or do you need to get over that? I don't know. But why is it so that you suddenly feel less excitement, and what to do, or your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's what happens. And I don't think it's something you need to get over. I think when you, like, say you have a desire for something and you go, oh my God, I don't know how I'm ever going to get that. And you've got this thing up on a pedestal. You think it's like, the oasis in the desert. You think it's just the most amazing thing, but then you go, oh, I don't know how that'll ever happen for me. And you've got all these doubts and all of that. As you work on whether you use affirmations just in general for self-love, or you may use affirmations for that particular subject. And then when it comes, you've got to a place where it's like, you know what, I've thought about this for so long. It might have been 6 months, it might have been 10 years. We don't know. But you get to a point where you've thought about it and the desire is so familiar and natural to you that when you get it, you go, okay, great, thanks. But it doesn't feel anywhere near as good as if I got it 5 years ago when I was desperate for it, So it's like you think about a desire so much that you get to a point where you kind of go, okay, great or not great, but you've actually got to the place where you have learned to detach from the anguish of not having it anymore. And that's when you set yourself free, and that's when the desire comes. So when it comes, it doesn't feel anywhere near as good as when you thought back at it 5 years ago, if you'd got it 5 years ago. But the thing is, 5 years ago, your state was not detached. You were really attached to it. You were desperate. You were really needing it. You were dissatisfied if you didn't get it. So getting it then would have felt like, the most amazing thing in the world. But you slowly move towards a more relaxedness about it, not with all desires, but if you're working on your self-love, I think that happens naturally. If you work on taking care of yourself, enjoying yourself, making this day good, your desires are always great, but nowhere near as great as they would have been at that 5-year mark, back at that 5. So I think, Dee, that's a natural process. I've seen it in my own life again and again and again, where I think, that would be so amazing. And I go, that's it's a long way away between you and it when you think that way. But when you kind of go, you know what? If my life never changed and I was till the day I die, my life was like this, and I'd be totally happy and content with that, you are in such a great place, because you're not going to be emotionally or mentally disturbed by it anymore. And I mean, I think Abraham Hicks talks about this really well. She talks about the emotional scale, and down the bottom is depression and anxiety and feeling powerless and all those things. All the way at the top of the scale, there's feeling happy and feeling appreciation and contentment. They're up the top. So once you can feel content and happy and appreciate things that have nothing to do with your desire, or you can appreciate your desire whether you have it or not today, she was even discussing on one YouTube, which unfortunately has been taken down now. It was so good. It was about, you can actually track and trace how close you are to manifesting a desire by, when I think of my desire, X, money, job, romantic relationship, what's the main feeling that comes up? Now, if you're still in feeling frustrated, angry, dissatisfied, anxious, you're nowhere near manifesting it. But if you can think about your desire and go, you know, I feel pretty good irregardless of having this. And oh my God, I forgot all about it this week. That's when you're on the brink of it, because you're not affected by it mentally or emotionally anymore. Having it or not having it is no longer in the marrow of your bones. You know, you're okay. And not only are you okay, you're thriving. And not only that, you actually forget about it sometimes because you're having such a good time going from this thing to this thing to this thing. And bang, that's when you're on the brink of it, because you're no longer traumatized or suffering from the lack of having it. That's how she was talking about. You can track and trace how close you are to a manifestation.
Okay.
And it's interesting. It's really interesting. If anybody wants to look more into that, if you put in Abraham Hicks emotional scale and you listen to her YouTubes about allowing, the art of allowing, she talks about that in lots of different ways. But it is so great to be free of the torment of wanting something. It is the greatest freedom of all.
Yeah. Okay. Great stuff. I'm stealing from your jargon, so as you would say, great stuff. So, so shall I move on to the next question? Okay, yes. Wonderful. Like during COVID, I felt this quite often because we were literally stuck at home, and and I found myself really struggling to motivate myself to want things, to get excited over things, but like because of that situation, because of the lockdowns, and we had quite a lot of lockdowns here in Turkey. How do you manage to get out of that state, or get out of a specific state? This is more related to the other questions and what you've all already answered. But I was wondering, even in well, there's a saying that, you know, outside circumstances don't matter. It's your inner state that matters. But here, the outside circumstances really did matter. And I really did struggle with coping with being isolated, not seeing anyone socially. Just, I don't know, what sort of strategy can you advise to get out of a state that you have no control over? So love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think I had many conversations with friends about this, and a lot of them, because we're quite similar, were saying, you know, lockdown and restrictions really hasn't changed my life. I don't feel affected by it. I mean, affected by knowing what was going on globally when you think about it, but in terms of the daily routine and the daily life. And I realized all of us had similar beliefs, and that was, we didn't see it as being isolated. We didn't see it as being separated. We didn't see it as being lonely at all. We saw it as, this is a wonderful time to do some inner work uninterrupted by other people, because we don't have to connect apart from online or through WhatsApp video or whatever. So I think it depends on how you view it, and your interpretation of it is what causes you the feeling of isolation, not what's happening on the outside. So I think, and I'm not saying if you actually lost family members and all of that, that's not going to affect you. That's a whole other thing. And rightly so that you would feel negative emotion about that, because we're human and we do feel loss. So, but in terms of just being restricted in your own home or not being able to see people and feeling a high level of emotion, that's a interpretation problem. And that's a feeling, it's like I'm being restricted, I'm being controlled, I'm being separated from my loved ones. It's all this looking at it through the eyes of that you're getting less than what you normally get. Whereas I know there was a lot of people that I was talking to were saying, wow, this is such a relief. Now I don't have to go out and do anything except for, you know, food shop or 1 hour. In the beginning, remember, it was you could only go out to food shop and an hour's exercise a day for a lot of countries. So, you know, but for those that were quite contented within their own selves, they didn't take the hit that that some people that were extroverted and need people more, they took the hit harder, I think. And you can't help how you are, you know. I think some people are naturally extroverted, some people are naturally introverted, and some people are a bit of both. But for those that felt really affected, I think looking at how am I interpreting this, because it's my interpretation that's hurting me, that was really helpful when I was coaching and working with people that were feeling the effects of the lockdown. Interpretation is everything. That's where you get the positive or negative emotion through your interpretation of things.
Yes. And also your interpretation of how other people think, how you think other people think about you or about different situations, that also affects you. So
yes, it does.
I remember you. There was this younger gentleman, I think he was from the States. He's no longer in the videos, but he had this method of revising the day, even if there was nothing negative that he lived during that day, he would revise it so that it would be better. And he would also, and so I started doing that. I interpreted that to my own needs. And this is the way I revised his method. I revised my beliefs about what I thought people thought about me. And I had to, of course, analyze what had happened during the day and why I felt bad in a certain situation. And then I started to revise what I thought about what other people thought that would be bad. So that was also a technique I sort of, improvised, an amalgam, strategy that worked for me. It seemed to work for me. So, but I realized that I was thinking about, I was always thinking that people had negative beliefs about me, they were thinking in a negative way about me. So that's what I picked up about my own beliefs. So I can sometimes.
If you take it a level down, because you're thinking people are thinking bad thoughts of you, then you're using revision to correct that, which I think is a good stepping stone. But if you look more deeply, I care about what other people think about me is the interpretation. and the assumption that hurts you. So if you can get to the place where you don't really necessarily care what people think or don't think, that that's their business, you break free of needing people to think a certain thing about you for you to be okay.
Right.
You see what I mean? Now, what you've done is fine and good, and it worked. But then when you look at, why do I need people to think well of me?
Not well, but I had this belief that people didn't mean well. That was the belief that I had. Not necessarily that they were thinking not too fondly of me, but I always had that they usually didn't have the best of intentions. That was the stereotype that I had in my mind. So I had to revise that.
Yeah.
That people didn't always mean to be bad, or, you know, I had to sort of cleanse that that way of thinking in my mind. Okay. So that's what I realized. So yeah, I don't know, it was something that I was struggling with, but it somehow worked. I hope. I'm still doing it.
If it works and it makes you feel better, then that's a good thing for you right now. You know, I think the thing is always say, okay, when I'm doing a technique, or like in this case, revision, does it make me feel better? Yes, that's great. I do like revision, but I'll be honest, I prefer pre-paving to revision, because revision means there's a problem and I've got to correct it. Whereas if you pre-pave things before there's a problem, then you don't have to go back and fix up the energy later.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. Like, say you're going to meet a friend, and say you've had a few issues and you don't see eye to eye, and then you're going, okay, we're going out for lunch today. Oh God, I hope we don't start with, you know, having another issue about something else. You know, I just want to keep the peace. So before you walk out the door, you're already kind of anticipating something. And then you have lunch and it goes well for part of the way. And then somewhere along the conversation, something gets twisted, and then it kind of goes pear-shaped and it doesn't work for the rest of the lunch. And then you kind of go, I want to go home now. I want to get away from this person. And you go, okay, what I did was I anticipated something going wrong, and then it was okay for a bit, but then it went wrong. And now I have to revise that lunch with that friend. Whereas if you'd cleaned up your energy before you walked out the door and said, you know what, I'm going to use the law of assumption here, and I'm going to assume we have the best time ever, and we have such a great connection, and we really click, and we're on the same page, and it feels so good to really understand each other. I love how we understand each other. I love how we understand each other. I love how we understand each other. And you walk out the door with that, your lunch goes totally different, because you didn't drag that old stuff into this lunch. So revision is a great thing. I think revision's good for stuff from the past, like say when you were a child, or when you were a teenager, or when you were in your first relationship and you didn't know about any of this stuff. So you go back and you revise things that you've still got negative emotion about today. But now, as you know about revision and you know about pre-paving, I find pre-paving, it means you got way less stuff to revise and clean up, because you do it as you go. So you don't accumulate as much stuff to have to revise. So it's all good learning. It's using these things to give yourself relief, to give yourself more pleasure, more fun, more just an easier life. I mean, you have such an easier life when you know what you're doing with interactions, with your thoughts, with your emotions, with your beliefs, with your interpretations, and what you assume. All of that, it just makes for a much easier life once you get better at it. They're just skills like any skill you would learn for a job. It's just other skills. They're life skills, game of life skills.
True, yeah, but unfortunately for myself, I ended up learning about these things quite late. So I think we need to be more aware of them as when we're children. I wish somebody had told me about these things when,
Yeah. I
so.
know what you mean, Dee. I think, I mean, I knew about it when I was 17, but it was only when I was in my late 20s and I got a tumor that I thought, okay, I've got to look at what's going on here. And then I didn't do anything again for some time. So it was like I'd come in and out of using it and then I'd leave it. And then something would happen. I go, oh, I got to go back to that stuff again, you know? So it's often suffering that pulls us back towards what am I doing and what have I done mentally and emotionally to have this in front of me. So I think that's always a good question to ask. If that's in front of me and it's not to my liking, I ask myself, what have I been doing mentally and emotionally and in my beliefs that is here? And then you're in a powerful position to make the changes so that disappears and dissolves, you see.
Right.
Yeah.
I realized, like, after reading about all these techniques and learning about them, I realized that I had done it in my past life without knowing. It's really funny that the university that I went to, it's really hard to get into. And I always thought that I would have the name of it in high school on my desk. And I would say, I'm definitely getting in there. Like, I'm getting in there. There's no way I'm not gonna, get into that university. And I did. I mean, it was a big surprise for everyone, including.
Nice.
It's a very hard place to get into, but I did. So I realized I did that back then, and I was so certain that I was going to go in there, like so certain, like I had no doubts whatsoever. I don't know why, but I guess I was, I don't know, naive. I have no idea, but I did that, and it's funny when you go back and look at and analyze the events in your life, you've actually used those techniques without knowing, unintentionally. So
yeah.
Well,
when you think it's a focus-based universe, what I focus on without doubt, and that you've just got the perfect formula using that example. You can use that for other things. I wanted to go there. I had no doubt. I knew it was hard to get into, but I had no doubt I was going to get in. And it's like, you've captured how to manifest right there. That's it.
Yeah. So
it's wonderful.
I wish I could do that for everything, but it doesn't work. I know. It doesn't work that way.
Yes. Some things are just harder to have no doubt about, aren't they? They're just harder.
I know, but like there are things, like there's such trivial things that I only think of like for 2 seconds and they pop up immediately. I wish I could control that, that's I get so frustrated, and this is really funny. This is really funny. I was watching this cook show, and they were doing these, I think it was even on the BBC or some, I think it was it on the BBC? I don't remember. Well, some cook show, recipe show. Yeah, I think it was like a chef competition show. I don't remember. Master Chef, I think it's called.
Okay.
Anyway. Yeah. So there was this guy who was preparing this dessert, and he was doing a caramel pudding, and he did something with it, and I thought, I wonder what it would taste like if he were to use sea salt. And just this, something, it went on for like a second, and then in the evening I went out to get some coffee, and in the coffee shop, guess what they were promoting? They were promoting caramel flavored ice cream with sea salt.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Why didn't I think of something else? And I'm like, when did you is this even a flavor? Like, what sort of a flavor is this? And they said,
Yes.
oh, we just, started, have a cup. And they gave me a cup free, taste it, have a cup. And I was like, okay, I need to learn how to fine tune this, like for other stuff, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Well, there's no attachment to something like that, because it's just a, and I think that's why it works so well, is because there's no attachment and there's no desperation and there's no need. It's just a fun thought, and then it's a great way to see. I remember once I bought this T-shirt, and I remember when I bought it, I thought, oh, I wish they made this in other colors. No word of a lie. It was, I think, about a week later, I'm on a walk. The exact T-shirt in the exact same brand is hanging over a fence in a park. in my size, in another color.
Wow.
I looked around, there was no one around. I went, okay, thank you, universe. I guess that's for me. And I took it home and I washed it and I wore it. And I thought, there's my second T-shirt in another color. It was the same brand and everything. Wow. It was unbelievable that the universe, God, source hears us. We're heard. We are heard on all these weird little things. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing.
It is. Like, I wish there was this specific formula so that we could have control over everything. Yeah. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. But boy, we can enjoy those moments when it happens and go, wow, thank you for hearing me. I'm thrilled that you showed me that amazing moment where it's not about the T-shirt. It's not about the dessert. It's about being heard and going, wow, that's profound.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the universe is doing this with all people all around the world. And there's so many of us. I mean, the system's incredible. It's an incredible system. So, yeah, I trust life. I think if we could practice that more, I trust life. That would reduce a lot of anxiety if you did trust life. Because if you see moments like that, they're moments of grace. There's a whole book called Moments of Grace by Neale Walsh, where he talks about these moments, and he's written a whole book of stories from all different people. It's a wonderful book.
Oh, okay. I know, but I've never heard of this book.
Yeah, so. Moments of Grace. I don't know if they've got it on YouTube as an audio, but I bought the physical book years ago, and I just remember going, wow, this is incredible. Like, it was all about what we've just talked about, but in individual stories on all sorts of different subjects. It was fabulous. Mm-hmm. Wow. Was that your last question?
Yes, I think I asked all 5 questions.
Good. Nice variety, Dee. Nice variety of questions.
Thank you. Well,
lovely.
I tried. I studied.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's so lovely doing this, because like, I never know what you guys are going to ask. Because some people have said, oh, do you want me to send the questions? But I said, no, just come and bring the questions. It makes it more fun when it's spontaneous and I don't know what the questions are, because then I'm not preparing and planning my answers. It's literally like a brand new discussion between you and I. So I appreciate you taking the time to, well, 1, come and do this, and 2, you've had to ponder the questions and think about what you want to ask. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
Treat. It's a wonderful treat. Thank you for doing this with me. And this is truly a wonderful treat. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you as well. Do you want to say goodbye to everybody? And then I'll say goodbye, and then we'll say bye in private.
Okay. Well, everybody who's interested in this sort of in these sort of topics, I hope you'll enjoy this conversation, and lots of love. From
nice.
Feel love, feel safe, and enjoy life. Let's say.
Yes. Enjoy life. That's the way. Thank you, everyone, for listening in to our discussion today. And if you've got anything you want to comment on, feel free to put it down in the thread for Dee or I or anybody else. And I will see you, as always, on YouTube in the next one.